You know, there are always a few students who prefer to stay quietly in the background. One particular little girl comes to mind from my own classroom. She was kind and thoughtful, but very shy. Speaking in front of others felt difficult for her, and even raising her hand seemed like a risk to her. I'm sure you've seen students like that in your own classroom. She was in my class for 2 years, and during that time, I watched something really lovely happen. At first, she raised her hand occasionally, and then she began sharing answers a little bit more confidently. Eventually, she was willing to try, even when she wasn't completely sure she was right. And I often guided her through those moments so she could get to the right end, of course. That kind of quiet growth doesn't usually happen because a teacher pushes harder. More often, it happens because students experience encouragement in small, steady ways. And that's where positive reinforcement becomes one of the most powerful tools we have in the classroom. So in this video, I want to talk about what positive reinforcement actually looks like in a real classroom, like my classroom. And I also want to show you why it helps students repeat positive behaviors and a few simple ways teachers can begin using it right away. So if this is something you're noticing in your classroom, it can be helpful to begin paying a little closer attention to the behaviors students are already showing. Positive reinforcement simply means acknowledging positive student behavior so that behavior becomes more quickly likely to happen again. In a classroom, that might look like recognizing effort, responsibility, cooperation, or perseverance. Students begin to notice what behaviors receive attention, and over time, they begin repeating those choices more often. Teachers often spend a surprising amount of time giving reminders. Please get started, remember your materials, let's focus, students. Sometimes it can feel like we are repeating the same instructions all day long, and that gets frustrating. But something interesting happens when teachers begin noticing positive behavior instead. Students begin paying attention to those moments. Gradually, the tone of the classroom starts to shift. And one of the simplest forms of positive reinforcement is specific praise. Instead of saying something general like, good job, and there's nothing wrong with saying good job except for it's not specific. It doesn't teach your students what you're looking for. You might say, I noticed how carefully you checked your work, or you showed real perseverance finishing that writing assignment. When you say things that are specific like that, students quickly learn which behaviors matter more in the classroom. And once they understand those behaviors tend to happen more often. And many students also benefit from hearing their effort recognized. Not every child will earn the highest academic marks, but every child can demonstrate effort. And when teachers notice improvement, students begin to see themselves as capable learners rather than discouraged ones. That shift can make a real difference in how they approach learning. So positive reinforcement can also highlight character traits. You can highlight kindness, honesty, responsibility, perseverance. When you notice these qualities, your students begin to understand that they matter in your classroom community. One of my favorite classroom activities involves students writing positive comments for one another. Once or twice a year, each student it was just simple as your 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Classmates walked around the room writing kind observations about each person. And the students took this activity very seriously, and I will say there were checks in places for giving the students language and making sure that all the comments were kind. They loved reading what their classmates had noticed about them, and then it quietly strengthened the sense of community in the classroom. In my classroom, I also had a microphone, necklace used for hearing support. When I spoke quietly into the microphone, the entire class could hear me. During morning work time, I might say something like morning coming in and getting settled time. Thank you for getting started right away, James. Or I appreciate how organized you are today, Amelia. And one day a student explained why this worked so well. She just said out of the blue, when I hear you encouraging my friend, I remember what I need to do. So there we go, not nagging or maybe nagging, but in a positive way. That moment captured the power of positive reinforcement perfectly for me. Students often learn simply by observing what teachers notice. And honestly, that matters more than we sometimes realize. When teachers consistently notice effort, responsibility, and cooperation, students begin repeating those behaviors. So if repeated reminders are taking up a lot of your energy, the next step is to begin building a simple system around what you are noticing instead. So this is something I talk about through step by step in my Calm Classroom Foundations guide, if you'd like a clear place to begin. Positive reinforcement teaches students which behaviors belong in the classroom. Consequences, on the other hand, because when we start talking positive reinforcement, many teachers are quite concerned about consequences. So let's describe them. Consequences help students understand which behaviors do not belong in the classroom. So within the Calm Classroom framework, these two work together to create the clear boundaries and encouragement students need in order to learn. Positive reinforcement works best as a part of a larger classroom system. Clear expectations help students understand what to do. Routines help them remember when to do it. Positive reinforcement encourages them to keep doing it. Together, those three systems help classrooms become calmer and more predictable. Sometimes it can be helpful to pause and ask a simple question. So what behaviors receive the most attention in my classroom each day? Because the behaviors that receive the most attention often become the behaviors that students repeat. So often it's the smallest classroom habits that make the biggest difference in how a classroom feels each day. A quiet word of encouragement spoken at the right moment can help a student feel capable and confident. Those small moments add up over time. So if this is happening in your classroom, the next step is to begin building a clear system that supports it. All right, you can read more about this, about positive reinforcement on my blog, and you will find the link to that in the first comment and in the description. And if you're looking for a simple starting point, the Calm Classroom Foundations guide will walk you through the core system step by step as an introduction to my Calm Classroom framework. Thanks for joining me. Bye for now.